20 years ago, if someone had offered you 1 crore, I believe most of you would have retired happily. I mean, 1 crore was a huge corpus back then. But today, many of you would not be comfortable retiring with 1 crore. And this is perhaps the most important question many of you might be grappling with. How much corpus is enough to retire in India? 1 crore, 2 crore, 5 crore, 10 crore or more. Now, if you search over internet, you'll find many retirement calculators or experts trying to give you a precise answer. Some will tell you that you need 5 crore. Some will say 10 crore. Some will tell you simply multiply your annual expense by 25. Then there's a famous 4% withdrawal rule for retirement. But over the years, I have started feeling that we are actually asking the wrong question. Because retirement is not a mathematical formula. Retirement is a life decision. And life rarely follows a spreadsheet. Retirement calculators follow a standard pattern, where they ask your current age, retirement age, current expenses, and then they consider a fixed inflation rate, expected return on current investment, and come up with a number. For example, let's say you are 35 today and want to retire at the age of 60. Now, the first question you need to answer is, how much is your monthly expense today? Let's say your current expenses are 1 lakh rupee. Now, the calculator will assume around 6% annual inflation. It means in the next 25 years, your monthly expense would become 4.3 lakh. And the entire retirement corpus would be built on the assumption of 4.3 lakh monthly expense. But the problem is, this calculation of 4.3 lakh is not that straightforward. What if today your expenses are high because you live in a metro city, and post-retirement you decide to move to your hometown in tier 3-4 city? In that case, your expense profile will change completely. Also, today your expense may include your kids' education, but 25 years later, your kids would become independent. Then another factor in your current expense could include your home rent. What if in the next 25 years, you have your own house? So the point I'm trying to make is, retirement is not a financial formula. It is a personal choice. And your retirement corpus ultimately depends on the life you want to live, not on a universal number someone on the internet tells you. For a couple living a simple life in their own house in a small town, even 1 crore corpus may be enough to retire today. For someone, even 10 crore is not enough. So everything boils down to your lifestyle. And the truth is, there is no perfect number for retirement. It would completely vary from person to person. So instead of obsessing over finding that perfect number, I think you should focus on building financial flexibility. The goal should be to create enough assets, enough cash flow, and enough margin of safety so that you can comfortably handle different versions of the future. And this brings me to something that I believe is far more important than finding the perfect retirement corpus. The biggest retirement mistake that people make. So let us discuss some of the most common retirement mistakes that you should avoid. So the first mistake people make is ignoring healthcare expenses. Now, when I say ignoring healthcare, I don't mean people don't know medical expenses exist. Everyone knows hospital bills are expensive. Everyone knows health insurance is important. But the mistake many people make is they do not plan properly for healthcare expenses. See, healthcare expenses are extremely unpredictable. You may have very low medical expense for years, and suddenly one medical event can completely change your financial situation for that year. And the second issue is that healthcare inflation is extremely high, much higher than general inflation. So even if your retirement corpus accounts for regular expenses comfortably, healthcare alone can throw your entire plan off track if you don't plan it properly. That's where you need to ensure that you have a right health insurance plan with enough cover from day one of your financial planning. It should provide a cashless treatment in all top hospitals of the country. And there should be no hidden clause like your co-payment or cap on specific diseases. The problem is, most people don't find out about these clauses until they are filing a claim. And by then, it's too late to do anything about it. So if you generally want to get this right, I would strongly recommend spending just 2 hours of your time on this. So Ditto runs a free 2-day life insurance masterclass every week. And honestly, it is one of the most practical breakdowns of insurance I've come across. Each session is 60 minutes, conducted in English. Registering once gives access to both days. Day 1 is term insurance that include what term insurance is, how much cover you need, and common mistakes to avoid. Day 2 is health insurance that include how to pick the right plan, real life claim stories, and what to watch out for. These sessions are practical, not just theory. They feature real claim stories, highlight mistakes people commonly make, and share exactly what to avoid when buying a policy. Each session has limited slot since it's live and interactive. To register for this free masterclass, I have provided the link in description and pinned comment. Second big mistake is underestimating inflation. Inflation is probably the most important aspect in retirement planning. While everyone is aware of inflation, the biggest mistake is underestimating it. Be it your home rent, grocery, petrol bill, child education, be it your travel expense, everything is getting costlier at a very fast rate. Also the fact that over time our lifestyle expenses also increases. So although there's a standard 5 to 6% inflation being considered while calculating the retirement corpus, I believe your individual expenses might be increasing at much faster rate. Of course, if you move to a smaller city after retirement, it might completely change your equation. So my suggestion is, while calculating the retirement corpus, don't just stick to a standard 5 to 6% inflation rate. Try to create 2-3 scenarios with different inflation rate, a base rate, a conservative rate, and a high inflation rate. So that would give you a range of retirement corpus rather than a fixed number. Then third big mistake people make in retirement planning is wrong investment decision. Retirement corpus is not just about saving money. It is about how that money is invested for 15, 20, 25 years of your pre-retirement phase. And here is where the mistake happens. A large number of people either become too conservative or they invest in a way that does not support long-term compounding. For example, many investors shift everything into fixed deposit or very low return instrument much before retirement actually happens. But what they often ignore is that retirement is not a 5-year goal. It is a 20-25 year journey. If you simply keep your money in FD or fixed instrument, you are hardly able to beat inflation. In fact, your post-tax return are even lower than inflation. In that case, even if your account balance looks stable, your purchasing power is slowly eroding. On the other hand, some people make the opposite mistake. They take excessive risk. So the real issue is the mismatch between your time horizon, your risk capacity, and your investment choices. Retirement investing should ideally go through phases with right mix of asset allocation. In the early years, when you still have a long runway, equity exposure becomes important because it helps your money grow faster than inflation over a long period. As you move closer to retirement, the focus slowly shifts. The goal becomes balancing growth with stability so that your portfolio does not become too sensitive to market volatility right before you need it. And after retirement, the focus shifts again from accumulation to cash flow management. But most people don't think in phases. They think in one fixed strategy, either fully aggressive or fully conservative. And that is where long-term retirement planning starts to break. Because retirement wealth is not built by one good decision. It is built by a series of consistent decisions made to stay invested in the right mix of assets for the right amount of time. Then fourth mistake people make is planning early retirement without understanding the trade-offs. In last few years, early retirement or what you call FIRE movement has become extremely popular over social media. There are stories of people retiring as early in their 30s. Honestly speaking, I think this FIRE movement is overrated. Okay, let me be very clear. There's nothing wrong with wanting financial independence. In fact, the idea of having freedom from financial stress is something everyone should aim for. But the problem starts when early retirement becomes your only goal in life. Because when people say, I want to retire at 40 or 45, what they are really doing is compressing a 30-35 year wealth building journey into 15-20 years. While few very high earners can build wealth in 15-20 years, majority of people struggle with it. And they end up putting a lot of pressure on themselves and simply sacrifice their present life to achieve that FIRE number. I think it's very important to enjoy your journey. There's no point taking excessive stress because it will only bring more anxiety. Another point is, when people actually retire early, many of them struggle with something unexpected. That is purpose. Work is not just about income. It provides structure, identity, social interaction, and a sense of progress. When that disappears suddenly, some people find it harder to adjust than they initially expected. I mean, how long can you enjoy sitting at a beach without doing anything? Again, this does not mean early retirement is bad. It simply means it is not as simple as save aggressively and quit early. And finally, fifth mistake is not planning money withdrawal post-retirement. Most retirement discussions focus entirely on how much should I save, which mutual fund should I invest in, how much corpus should I target, but very few people spend enough time thinking about what happens after retirement. Because retirement is not just about building wealth. It is also about converting that wealth into a sustainable income stream. Let's say two individuals retires with exactly the same corpus of 5 crore. One person has a clear withdrawal strategy. He knows how much he can withdraw annually, how much his portfolio is structured, how much cash he needs for emergency, and how he will deal with market volatility. The other person simply retire with 5 crore and assume everything will somehow work out. Who do you think has a higher probability of success? The reality is that retirement planning does not end when you reach your target corpus. In many ways, a new phase begins. Unlike the pre-retirement phase, where the primary objective is wealth creation through compounding, the post-retirement phase is fundamentally different. Once your regular salary stops, your portfolio is no longer just a wealth-building tool. It becomes the source of your monthly income. As a result, the focus gradually shifts from maximizing return to preserving capital and generating sustainable cash flow. So here you have a couple of approaches. First approach is to break your investment into two buckets. First bucket is near-term expense. Here you can keep 3 to 5 years of expenses in FD or liquid fund. This would ensure that even if the market corrects, you don't need to sell your equity to fund your monthly expense. And the rest of the money can be parked into equity that would continue to grow your corpus. Second approach is to opt for a hybrid mutual fund that keeps a fine balance between debt and equity and set up an SWP, that is systematic withdrawal plan, where a specific amount would be withdrawn every month. Always remember that retirement is not about finding the highest return investment. It is about ensuring that you never become a forced seller during a market crash. Whether you achieve that through a bucket strategy, hybrid fund, SWP, or a combination of both, that is secondary. The primary objective is to create reliable cash flow while giving part of the portfolio enough time to continue to compound. So coming back to the original question, is 1 crore enough to retire? The honest answer is maybe yes, maybe no. For some families, 1 crore may be more than enough. For others, even 10 crore may not feel sufficient because retirement is not defined by a number. It is defined by the gap between your assets and your lifestyle. And that is perhaps the biggest takeaway from this entire discussion. See, internet loves simple answer. It loves formulas like 25 times expenses, 4% withdrawal rule, and retirement calculators that claim to predict the next 30 years of your life with a few inputs. But life does not work that way. Your city may change, your spending habits may change, your family responsibilities may change, your health may change, your priorities may change. And that's why retirement planning should never be about finding the perfect number. It should be about building enough flexibility to handle different versions of future. Always remember that your goal should be to reach a stage where your investments, assets, and cash flows are strong enough that works become a choice rather than a necessity. And if you can achieve that, whether your corpus is 1 crore, 5 crore, or 10 crore becomes far less important than most of you think. Also, as discussed earlier in the video, don't overlook the importance of adequate health insurance. Building a retirement corpus is important, but protecting it is equally critical. And if you would like to learn more about insurance, you can explore Ditto's free 2-hour masterclass. Link is available in the pinned comment. So that's it from my side. Now I would love to know, have you planned your retirement or not? If yes, what is your preferred retirement corpus? If you find this video useful, do share it within your circle. I'll see you next video. Till then, take care.